Hello, everybody. This is José Ignacio from the Uncomfortable Dialogues 2022. Thank you very much for joining us today. We value your participation and feedback. For today's dialogue, I am deeply honored to have the opportunity of chatting with a truly international scientist, Professor Nilmini Wickramasinghe. For perspective, she received the 2020 Alexander von Humboldt Research Award in Germany for outstanding contribution to the scientific field in digital health. Currently, she is the Deputy Director of the Inverson Health Innovation Research Institute in Melbourne, Australia. She leads a team of top-notch scientists dedicated to creating social and economic impact through science, technology, and innovation. Hey, what an exceptional opportunity to use video conferencing to connect with Nilmini, literally around the world, for today's Uncomfortable Dialogue 2022. How are you doing, Nilmini?
Good morning, Jose. Good morning from me, at least, and I think it's good afternoon to you. I'm doing very well, thank you.
I remember last time when we were talking about life and future challenges, we were in Chicago, and that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. So since then, something has changed, right? So can you tell us what have you done in terms of facing reality or facing the challenge that you were posed because you are in Australia?
Sure. Well, definitely, I think back to when we were having that coffee in Chicago, and neither of us could have predicted what would have happened in the years since then up till now. Clearly, it's been a huge challenge, I think, for everybody with COVID. In fact, we've just come out of a nearly 200-day lockdown, which has been very intense. You couldn't go more than 5 kilometers out of your house between the hours of 5 a.m. and 8 p.m., and only for emergency things, grocery shopping, doctor visits, and other emergency things. Otherwise, you had to stay inside at home. And if you did break these rules, there were huge, huge fines. So it has been a really hard time for everybody. And I think we've all learned to work together, and many people have lost their jobs. Fortunately, I haven't, but we've had to pivot and really become resilient and accept the reality, but also try to survive and look after each other.
But I remember that you were a woman who was always flying. I mean, you used to go from Chicago to Germany, and then from Germany to Sri Lanka, and then from Sri Lanka to Australia. So how do you cope with all these demands from the job while you are locked down?
Yeah, it's the last 2 years I have been on only 3 international flights, which is absolutely unbelievable for someone who used to be averaging about 10 international flights a year. It has been very different. But fortunately, and being a professor of digital health, I guess one expects me to pivot very quickly. We have Zoom and Teams and other video conferencing capabilities that we can rely on. And so I've still been virtually traveling to Germany and virtually traveling to Asia and virtually traveling to US and North America, so Canada as well, just from sitting here in my home office and not stepping on an aeroplane. The only struggle is Australia is a little bit far away from the rest of the world. So most of this activity has been at very unusual times, like 1 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the morning or midnight. And I've got used to working literally 24/7.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I assume that teaching is different because of COVID. I mean,
in digital health, it has been an opportunity to try and help our students to think about what it's like working with digital health, how patients may have reticence with using technology, how clinicians might be a little concerned. So they've also been able to experience, I guess, firsthand what it's like. And I'm reminded by, Einstein once said, more important than knowledge is imagination. And I think we've really had to rely on imagination and develop creative opportunities to still transfer the pedagogy and teach our students and still help them to be prepared and ready for tomorrow when they start entering the workforce.
Now, before we have this taping, you were telling me about your eyebrows.
Sure. When you're an academic and you teach students, they always tell you straight up what they think. And after a while, my students and colleagues told me they're not shy. They told me, Nilmini, we can tell whether you like our answer or you're confused or whatever very easily. And I said, how is this? And they said, oh, we just look at your eyebrows. We can see if they go up or down or they're straight. And they have developed a whole series of understanding what I'm saying when I'm not saying anything from my eyebrows. And it seems to be even better than the traditional reading of me in the classroom or in meetings. So, but from my side, equally, it has been challenging because, of course, as an academic or as a researcher, you're trying to understand what somebody is saying, and you pull together different cues, non-verbal cues as well as the verbal cues, to really get a much richer picture. And I have to say, I don't necessarily focus on people's eyebrows, but I do kind of, over time, focus on how people talk, whether they move towards the camera, whether they stand back, whether they move away. And you have to be a little careful because depending on where the camera is placed for people, they're either looking at the camera or they're looking at the screen. So it may appear that they're not looking at you, but really that's because they're looking at the screen and not the camera. So I think over time one learns, and one learns by talking to the same person over time. Different people, then you have to reset and learn. But I think all of us have developed these skills. I know, talking to some of the doctors who have had to pivot and do telehealth consultations, they have learned better to read patients.
Nilmini, as a digital health scientist, you are in the center of the hurricane. Either you have all the answers we are eager to know about the vaccines, or you are in the process of finding them. So what is your perspective?
Oh, I wish I had all the answers to life. Sadly, I have no answers, but I am in the solutions game. In research and academia, we always say we don't have the answers, but we are in the game of finding solutions. And I think that's very important. And I think it's not just me. I'm talking broadly about academic and research initiatives. I mean, if you think about COVID, when COVID started, and how quickly we got vaccines out, developed and got out. I think that's an example of finding solutions very quickly. In 2019, nobody knew about COVID really. It was only towards December. In 2021, nearly December now, we have so many vaccines. It's the fastest time of rolling out multiple vaccines in the history of mankind. And I think that shows that we are able, as researchers and academics and scientists, to look at the problems and the challenges and find solutions as quickly as possible that are beneficial. So I think that's a general statement. And then bringing it back to me, that's what we've been doing. And you talked about the eye of the hurricane. And as you know, the eye of the hurricane, one has to be calm. And I think that's very important. You know, there's a huge crisis going on, but if you can't sort of center yourself and be calm and collected, it's very difficult to find solutions that are going to be helpful and impactful. So the first step, I think, was, yes, it's a big challenge, but it is a big challenge for everybody. We're all in this together. Some of us are more affected, some of us are less affected, but we're all in this together. We have to stay calm and try and think logically and carefully how we can develop solutions.
We are running out of time, so if there are a few words that you can share with the audience.
I want to do whatever I can to make a difference, even if it's a little difference, even if it's one person whose life has changed for the better or who is helped. I think that's the key for me personally, is I want to make a difference where I can. I believe, you know, I've been very lucky and fortunate to have skills and opportunities, and therefore it's my responsibility to try and help and share my skills and abilities to make everything a little bit better so we can all manage. But I think the thing, if I sort of reflect on these last 2 years, what has really stood out, I think, is people. You know, we've had some people all over the world who've done some really special things, who've really, you know, crises tend to bring out the best in certain people, and I think we have witnessed that and we'll be better prepared and ready for whatever the next crisis is. Because one thing, while I don't have any answers, one thing I can assure you is this is not the last crisis.
Nilmini, thank you very much for this dialogue, and for everybody else watching this dialogue. If you happen to have any questions to Nilmini or to myself, just drop a note here and we will get back to you. That's a promise.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.